Welcome to the Nobodies podcast. I myself am ZRift, but you could call me via Z. Our first guest is Nero.
Hello, I am the Hero Nero.
He is the Hero Nero. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We've got Jason Mars.
Hi, I'm Jason. You may know me from that epic meme, Jason, where I couldn't be found in heavy rain.
we've got Hazzamaxman.
Hey, everybody. And for those of you who don't get the reference, you need to get a life. And no, I do not mean Swift cover car insurance. Just saying.
And we've got Faruok.
Hello, me old chums.
Congratulations, everyone. We made it through the intros without
No, we
laughter.
didn't. We didn't. We didn't make it through the intro. Welcome to the Nobodies podcast. And what we do here is just a group of friends having a talk. We don't really know what the heck is going to happen, but we have some topics that we do want to talk about. So we might actually, get onto that. But if you do enjoy the podcast, or if you want to support the podcast, a subscription or pressing the subscribe button would be greatly appreciated. If there are any topics you'd like for us to talk about in a future podcast, let us know down in the comments below. But apart from that, I say we get this show on the road. So the first topic. Geez, I need to learn when to talk. First topic is a news story. Is about a week or so old, but there's been updates to it as it's been happening over the week. It is the story of course, the Soho Karen. Now, what is the Soho Karen? It's if I'm putting it in my own personal opinion, it's a girl, not even a girl, a fully grown 22-year-old woman decided to assault a young black teenager because she believed that the teenager stole his phone. The main issue around it is obviously people are believing that it is a racially motivated attack. She just assumed that because he's black, he has to be the one that stole the phone. But the important, or the source that we have for this is a news article by CBS, which I will share with everybody now.
Keep the comment sections around, everyone. We all have different opinions. Like even us as friends, we all have very different thoughts on things. And that's one of the reasons why we thought it'd be good to have this channel, to be able to discuss political things in a casual setting without being ridiculed for having a difference of opinion. And we hope to replicate that in the comments.
Very well said.
In a civilized manner, indeed, squires.
Keep it kosher.
What I'm seeing is essentially a spoiled brat, a really, really spoiled brat that thinks she can get away with it, or tries to want to get away with it. She has no respect to what she did to the person she harmed. She doesn't even apologize properly. She says that she's not who it reflects as a person. But to be honest, I don't get that. I don't get that at all. She seems genuinely condescending. She says that she apologizes if she feels like she made the young teenager feel uncomfortable or attacked. But it's not a matter of she made him feel or something. She genuinely jumped on him, attacked him, and then tries to justify by saying the father had to take her off and slam her to the ground. Yeah, because you were attacking his son. So where's your point in that? Where's your argument in that? You were jumping around accusing this person of taking something that they didn't even take in the end. So yeah, you did commit an offense because you assaulted someone. You straight up assaulted someone, and yeah, that is a criminal offense. You had no reason for it. You could have taken a much more calmer attitude, a much more calmer way of doing it. But no, she instead decided to just jump on someone and assault them. So at least from my standpoint, I think that an arrest is 100% a valid thing. But what I'll do is I'll pass it off to Faruok.
I would say that this not only did obviously the points mentioned before definitely seems to be quite spoiled in terms of how they responded to the situation, but they also showed incompetence, I would say, because obviously with the way they handled it, instead of going to security, which would be the first thing you should do, they made a accusation without really understanding the whole situation, which was I would say a bad way of doing things. What they should have done, and the way it should be done, is that you should go to security, obviously file your complaint or file your accusation, and then they can go through CCTV, they can go through proper methods of verifying if your phone was stolen. And in the meantime, while they're trying to do an investigation, you could probably look around your pockets and see if you've actually lost it. And if you've lost it, then you can, I feel the way she handled it herself was quite bad, and I think it was quite an incompetent move, in my personal view. Anyway, but that's all I've got to say on it. What about my friend Nero?
Well, you both made good points, and I'm inclined to agree. Here's the thing that I'd like to point out is the whole. So she's clearly being a bit of a Karen. We can't, And the funny thing is about this, what I've been thinking while you've been making actually good structured points, I've just been thinking that it's interesting that Karen can start at quite a young age, and it's clearly a mindset and not an age thing. Is this a red attack? I'll elaborate on it if you want me to elaborate on it. Yeah, I mean, so we get the term Karen, right? It's usually associated with middle-aged women acting up, but this woman isn't. She's acting up. It has nothing to do with her age. So I guess it's always been more of a mindset thing than an age thing. God forbid, I don't want to see what this woman is fucking like in her mid-40s. Is this a racial attack? I don't know if I'd put that on her. I guess, yeah, you could say that she looked at the person that they were of a certain race, and maybe, yeah, it's a bit bad to point out that she fingered the person out for being of a certain race, but you could argue in the heat of the moment maybe she didn't think about that. Maybe she did, maybe it was, but I'm not here to pass judgment on whether it was a racial thing. I personally don't think it was, and I'll give her some benefit of the doubt. But in terms of, is she, as you said, is she spoiled? Did she handle the situation poorly? 100%. I think this woman clearly, I don't know what kind of parental figure they had in their life, but they clearly let him get away with too much shit, and that's my opinion. Do we want to get to the next talker?
Yeah, sure. Hazza, what do you think?
So, I'm very interested in the fact that you, Nero, brought up that it's more of a mindset rather than an age-related factor. And the reason that I'm interested in that particular aspect is because in 2016, Yale University did a study on this very concept, and they created, or at least popularized, a phenomenon referred to as implicit bias. And the implicit bias study was based upon a group of primary school teachers. And what they were supposed to do is they were sitting in a separate room, watching via a screen, a room full of young children who would be in their primary school classes. And via camera technology, the camera was identifying which students the teachers innately looked towards, which student did they pay more attention to. And interestingly enough, they found in the study that 47% of the teachers automatically looked towards the black children, and especially the black boys, if any challenging behaviors were exhibited, i.e., any behaviors that teachers wouldn't call the norm for an ideal school setting. And this situation in particular seems to bring up similar innate feelings and connections to the implicit bias theory. So, because in this situation, this woman innately assumes that the black boy stole her phone, even though there seems to be no evidence to suggest that. Yet she still assumes this is the case. And so the real question is, why did she make that implicit bias in the first place?
I think that's very well said.
So I'd like to pass on to our next talker, and our next talker, I believe, is going to be my boy Jason Mars.
Yeah, so I've just been kind of going through it, just kind of watching the video in the background. And it's interesting that you mention explicit bias. I think it's one of those things where you could easily say it was just the person that happened to be nearest to her at the time. Like if you think you've just been pickpocketed, you're just going to go and react to the nearest person to you. And it can be just. I think I agree with Nero. I don't necessarily think it's a racist attack. I definitely think it's an assault. And I do find it very frustrating. I think I wouldn't say her answer is, when she responded, it came across as very almost overly political, but also that kind of condescending thing at the same time, like that kind of, if like you don't want to admit guilt because she's currently in a court case being done for assault, and any other kind of more what we might consider more acceptable might be used as evidence and said, look, she basically admitted guilt on national television. So I think her hand might have been forced from that point of view in terms of what she said. I personally have been kind of interested in like you bring up the fact of skin color. Do you think that I want to kind of get an idea what other people think, because I'm not quite sure in like what would you class her skin color as? If you're talking about the skin color of the victim is important, would we consider the skin color of the perpetrator important?
Let me get a good look at her.
Because I find it interesting that the images that are used in the media are ones of a mugshot, which make her look whiter.
Oh, I'd argue she's Hispanic.
It's an interesting point that you mentioned.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, I was thinking more Hispanic.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that doesn't necessarily prevent or hinder the fact that I would say that there is some racial bias to this, because if she says that she was checking everyone that walked out the door, which she says in the video, but then happened to pick on the one black guy who was leaving with his father, why? What was the reasoning behind that? Why did she assume that he specifically was the one that had to steal her phone?
I also want to follow up on that particular point. So it's a well-known neurological and psychological phenomenon that over time we individuals form social cognition patterns. So what we mean by that is, based upon our life experiences, given that our brain is inundated with tons of information to work out, we naturally take shortcuts and try to make connections to develop patterns so we can try to predict behaviors that are coming in the future. And she did, without any hesitation, assume that it was the black kid, even though there were other people around. Although, having said that, the NYPD claimed that it wasn't a racial bias. So I guess the real question is, how do we find out whether there was a racial bias or not? And how are the NYPD investigating? How do they come to that conclusion that this is not an incident of racial bias? Because it could very easily be, based on the theories and evidence we've looked at.
The thing is, you can never really know unless they admit to it, or unless the act is purposely provoked as a racial attack. When somebody attacks someone, and it's usually of a different skin color, I think racial things is always the first thing we leap to, but you could never really know why someone's doing it. I guess I missed a detail here. Was the kid the closest person to her?
No,
it was
I don't.
close to the
No,
door.
it wasn't
It doesn't
close
specify.
yet.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that doesn't make her look good then, because I was going to at least defend if it was the closest person to her. I could understand why she'd think that, because if somebody pickpocketed me, I'd assume it was the closest person to me. So, if that's not the case, I can see it being maybe a bit more skewed in that
I
favor.
suppose it's easier to say if you're in a crowd of people, you have to immediately spread your thing out, like your search area out. It's not like you was like on an escalator and someone's walked by and you realize something's gone, where you can easily go, one person clearly walked past and then did it. If she's in the crowd of say like of 8 people, and one of those 8 people is suddenly walking out the door, you're going to make the assumption that they're trying to make a getaway.
Yeah.
No,
I
but
think
one.
one universal truth that we can conclude on is that this is one spicier meatball.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well,
Well,
that definitely wasn't in doubt.
let's keep it like let's look at. I'm thinking of it as look from her behavior in the interview, and look from her
She's very
behavior.
defensive.
Not
Yeah.
even defensive. She's straight up just denying that she's in the wrong, that she's done anything wrong. She's
No
straight up.
apologies made.
Yeah,
She's
but
even the person sitting beside her. That's her lawyer. Like that's not her mum. That was
yeah,
the lawyer.
but that's
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
why she's so defensive. Is because it's a lawyer. It's like the lawyer's basically gone and said, "Don't admit anything."
Yeah, decline everything.
Well,
No,
yeah,
but
because the whole point.
That's what lawyers do.
Yeah, the whole point is
yeah.
you're now in a situation where you're trying to prove because here's the thing, now because it came out that it was a racial, like it might have been a racial attack. The only defense you have is to basically be like, I be on the back foot and and play defensive. Like there is no winning scenario here of how you combat that kind of accusation.
No, but I just think her
mean,
behavior in
look.
general just proves that she, even if it wasn't racially motivated, which I feel there is a certain degree of racial profiling here, because I feel like the way she treated him, the way she jumped on him, the way that she tries to move away from him, the way that even in the interview she tries to say, "Oh, I'm a 22-year-old girl," and racism and all of that. How does that fit in? You know, me jumping on a guy because he stole my phone. How does that constitute an attack? Well, no, that she just has no sense of care or respect for this other human being. She looks at him as less than her. And even she does that to the
Well,
investigator
yeah.
as well. Like in the video, you'll see that she tries to shush the investigator, like telling her that's enough. Like I don't want to talk about it anymore. How could you do that? What does that show as you as a person? That shows that you genuinely don't view other people as being other people. You see yourself as always being correct, always being in the right. You have no respect for somebody else.
I do want to follow up
No, I
on
mean-
that particular point. I just wanted to briefly mention that a quote directly from her interview, which I'm assuming is with CBS, but I don't know who interviewed her. She specifically says, "I was approaching the people exiting the hotel because in my mind, anybody exiting might be the one that is trying to steal my phone." And then in response, the interviewer mentions, "You're 22, you're 22, you're not a child, you can't defend yourself acting like a child." It is
Yeah.
questionable logic that she uses to shift the blame away from herself, claiming that because she's 22, she deserves childlike leniency, and therefore, in the legal case, she should be treated as if like a minor, not fully competent of the decisions that she's making. But at 22, you have at least some awareness as to how to act appropriately in social situations. There is at least basic social etiquette. So you could understand if she assumed it was the black child, but then as soon as she found out it wasn't, apologize and make it clear that she recognizes that her implicit bias was a problem and she will correct it in the future. But it's the fact that she's digging her heels in and going the other way. And we've all watched enough television. I mean, I spend more time watching TV than I do breathing, basically. And you know that from watching crime drama shows, that if you're in a court case and you're being framed, the best thing to do is to suck it up. Because the more defensive you act, the more guilty you look. And the more likely you are to convince a jury that you're guilty, even though you're not. You kind of have to steer into the skid, like when you're driving in ice.
Okay, there's a couple things. I've actually got that quote up, and it was talking about, like, it wasn't necessarily talking about, it was talking about how she went out and had assaulted him because of that fact, but she's 22 and should know better. Hang on, I'll get the actual quote. It says, okay, Maya, that's not the problem. You have to at least understand your actions that day. You seem to have attacked this little boy, this young boy, this teenager. You seem to have attacked this teenager about the phone, and it turned out he didn't even have your phone. That's the thing. I mean, you say, look, I'm 22 years old. You are 22 years old, but you're old enough to know better. So I would say you're 22, I get it. And it's like one of those things where I go, can't remember the other point you made. About she's 22 and should
Basically,
know better.
the point I'm
but at the
making
same
is
time
she's
they were
trying to use
dealing
22
with.
as a
Oh yeah, it was
defense.
the other point was the lawyer thing in court.
Yeah.
The problem is she's not dealing with people in a jury in a court with information, you're dealing with the wrath of the public on social media.
Yeah.
That's
Which is
why
not
you
even worse.
because that's the thing is people have been found to be cancelled based on minimal evidence on there and purely based on mob mentality, and that is what she's
Agreed.
fighting now. She's not fighting a jury because it's it's much easier in court to disprove racism because you can just say someone stole my phone and he happened to be there, so I accused him because he happened to be in the vicinity. You have to prove racial intent for that to happen. But she'll probably get done for assault, and should get done.
Yeah,
which
definitely.
she should be. Here's the thing: like, if I was reading this, the first thing I wouldn't think was, this is a racial thing. The first thing I'm reading this is she attacked a fucking child.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the first thing that jumped to my mind.
She jumped a
the
kid.
racial thing might come second,
Definitely. Yeah.
but at the end of the day, I'm like, well, she attacked a kid. Like, at the end of the day, you should get punished severely for that. And like, we all agree her attitude was wrong. The only thing we're kind of differing on is whether it's racial or not. At the end of the day, racial or not, she attacked a kid, and unlike something like being racist, which you can't prove or not in this certain situation, you can prove that she attacked a child.
I definitely think it's class. I definitely think it's something. It's like the old saying: you can't buy class. And I think I think the best way to describe it is entitled. She definitely comes across as that kind of second generation rich, where they think they have everything.
No.
Yeah, that's the impression I
She's
get.
just a straight. She deserves the title of Karen. She expects things to be given to her. She expects to be living life without, with everything being catered to her. And you even see in the way she behaves in the report. She believes that she is the morally right person. She can do what she wants. Whatever her belief is the right belief. It doesn't matter what you think. I don't think I attacked that boy, even though I jumped on him on his back. I think, as a matter of fact, that his dad is the one who's in the wrong because he had to bring me to the floor. Never mind the fact that I jumped on his 14-year-old son and potentially scratched out his face or anything. No, I just think it's because he's older than me, because he's a man and he's he might be physically stronger than me. The fault is on him. No. You doesn't matter what your age is. If you were like 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, fine, maybe. But yeah, don't try and use your age of 22 to justify being a trashy person. Don't you dare. Don't you ever dare justify that.
And don't you dare make it into a sexist thing about the fact that you're trying to make the man look like he's the actual perpetrator, when actually all he's doing is actually looking after his son.
Exactly.
And
yes.
I think low key that's what she's trying to do. And
if someone jumped on my kid, you think I wouldn't be defending my kid?
Yeah, if you
some
really
psychopathic.
If you really didn't want it to be sexist, you'd give her a black eye for doing that.
Some psychopathic girl is jumping my kid. You don't think I'm going to post up?
You see, with this particular issue, I think it's fairly concrete, rock solid, unquestionable that she needs to be punished for a crime that she's committed. The only thing worth debating is the motivation, and hence that's the only thing we can talk about, because the rest of it is,
you know what?
You assaulted a child, look at the child. Done. That's how you know.
Let's turn this. Let's move this into a sort of a more sort of like a happier sort of way. Let's discuss the fact that she decided to wear a daddy hat.
I literally nearly burst out laughing. It's like you're accusing someone's dad of beating you up, and you wear a daddy hat to the fucking interview. Oh, it's almost like I'm getting mixed messages here.
Right. To be fair, that daddy on a hat could have two different meanings.
I was thinking the sexual.
I know.
I know. I blame modern day Western television. All right, it is impossible to watch a non-children's TV show without sex in it. Like, I was watching How I Met Your Mother earlier today, right? And I swear there were 2 or 3 sex scenes in the one episode. I'm watching a sort of drama series made by Steven Spielberg called Taken, and it's about the Roswell, New Mexico incident. And like 5 different couples had sex in the 1 hour episode. It's like, come on, dirty
Sex sells,
mind,
man.
I mean,
Sex
dirty
sells.
world. I had to think it was sexual. Like, what are you gonna do?
I mean, the increased amount of sexuality in TV shows could be a topic of discussion in itself.
Yeah.
Which kind of all comes from Game of Thrones. I feel.
I mean,
like that.
there's-
The popularity that show got, and after the first couple of episodes are literally the main character having sex and showing tits, and you literally know that's how they got a lot of people in.
There's
Of the
nothing
ER
wrong.
Persuasion.
There's nothing wrong with like being into the daddy ideal, if that's the one
Oh,
way you want to
big
put it. If
daddy,
you're into the
yes.
daddy, if you're into the daddy role play,
which one?
the
Which
daddy
dad-
role
oh,
play,
okay.
yeah, that kind of
Okay, I get you.
sexual exploration and stuff. That's no problem with that. People can explore whatever they want.
Yeah.
The
Not on
problem,
public
the
TV.
problem is,
Ruben, what kind of TV are you
brother.
watching?
Not on
this
public
girl
TV.
decided.
Cold,
This girl decided to
porn,
post up
wait
on a
for
public
it,
interview
pornography.
wearing a
No.
daddy's hat.
Oh,
Like, she ain't no-
how did that lawyer not think, hey, maybe we shouldn't be wearing that hat?
She ain't no daddy's girl.
But to be fair, she's probably rich. She'll get away with it.
I hope not.
The
I certainly
the
hope not.
problem, if she gets away with it, there'll be so much public outcry that she'll get punished by the public anyway.
She will.
Yeah.
She will never be
And that's
able.
something we-
She won't be able to like go outside and be without being recognized as the dad,
She'll be
the
bitch
racist
slapped
daddy's
by
girl.
social media.
To be fair, in 2021, I'd rather go to prison than get cancelled.
Oh, I think that brings us onto social media and behaviours.
Imagine, hold on. Imagine
segue.
Oh, that was such a
Before
smooth
that-
transition.
before we go there, though.
There's
Imagine
something
meeting her in a
really important that I
supermarket.
need to mention.
Yeah, imagine meeting her in a supermarket and knowing her as the racist daddy's girl.
I was just
What do you
about
want
to make.
What do you want to mention?
Oh, she's stealing!
I was about to
She's
make a point
stealing!
related to that. I wanted to make a point related to that. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but for the past few weeks, on Instagram, on Facebook, even on YouTube, there's a post of these 4 guys who have been trying to go on holiday to Dubai, and they are literally getting like twatted on the internet for being like massive crybabies who get in fights with everyone who talks to them. And like they constantly post on Instagram in particular about going to Tesco, and people come up to them and be like, oh, you're one of the mates that posted about going to Dubai on Instagram. And they all just like start like crying, like, no, I'm not one of the mates. I hate you. I hate
Hold on,
everything
what's
you
the
said.
context?
What's the context? Why are they giving him shit?
Well, see, basically, it's like a joke sort of thing. The reason that everyone's giving these 4 guys shit is because they're super defensive over nothing. So, like, one guy came up to them and found these 4 guys at the supermarket together, and they were just like, "Oh, hey, you're that guy from Instagram, the Birmingham squad going to Dubai," and they're like, "No, we're not. How dare you say that? We're not the Birmingham squad. Leave us alone. We don't even know you. We don't even like you. Just leave us be." Just like it's like comical how defensive they're getting over nothing. They've
So
literally created
it's the idea of
mountain out
that
of
when
a
you become
molehill.
internet famous, that someone else will be, that people will be able to find you on like in public and then just walk up to you.
Exactly.
And, like,
Imagine if that happens to this girl. Like, the second she goes out, if she doesn't get punished, they'll be like, "Hey, you're Soho Karen." She'll be like, "My name's not Karen. It's Eileen."
no, it's daddy's girl.
It's like
you
the
think
whole
that they're-
Cassidy and Butch thing. The name's not Karen.
Yeah, I think they're with the association to that, like obviously because they've been quite public on the news. I think their career, whatever job prospects they had in the future, are now going to be absolutely decimated.
Let's be honest. Here's what she'll do.
Like-
She'll live into the meme. She'll start selling merch with like her image on it, because that's the only way she's gonna make money, isn't it? She's gonna sell. She's
Start
gonna
OnlyFans.
play into.
Oh, you gotta start an OnlyFans.
Oh my
Gotta
god.
start an OnlyFans.
Is that a
30-year-old
conversation for a
girl.
completely different like
Spanky
year?
bottle.
I feel like we're now going into that section of the chat of the conversation. Okay, we're going there.
I think
Anyway,
it
about
either
social
way-
media.
Every
mean,
conversation
to,
inevitably ends on an OnlyFans account.
Well, to be fair, to follow up on what Hazzamaxman said, I will say this: getting defensive on the internet is a death sentence.
I mean, yeah, because if you get defensive, anyone who decides to troll you, it's that whole. That's what the trolls want, isn't it? It's like if you
Yeah, exactly.
if you start,
You think we would have?
yeah,
Yeah.
If you get more defensive, you get more irate, if you get more aggravated, then people love that.
No, yeah, well said.
So
I think, like,
it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it? Oh my
exactly,
goodness.
yeah.
You think we would have learned that from like YouTube comments?
If you want to be a dumbass,
Anyway,
you
keep
can
the
be a
comments
dumbass.
halal.
By the way, tell us what you think down below, and we'll read them.
I mean,
Like and subscribe.
For curiosity's sake.
Like and subscribe and hit that bell icon, homeboys. Keeping it
I
real,
mean-
24/7.
Post
For
notifications,
frick's
guys.
sake. Oh, for bloody hell.
We should end this podcast as like a 30-minute, like telling people to
Just
like
an
and
advertising
Let me do
section.
that.
Just
Let me do that. If we're doing that, let me do that. I'm begging
Wow.
you.
It's
I have to
almost
do
like
that.
people forget that how it's like, hey, do you know how to support people on YouTube? Like they're so dumb that they forget every time they go on some other videos. Like, oh man, if only there was some way I could support this content, get more people. I just can't remember.
literally.
Remember to like and subscribe. Oh yeah.
I was listening.
But
to
it's
a
proven to be
podcast,
effective, though.
right?
It's proven to be
I was
effective.
listening to a podcast, and at the start of every episode, I swear there's like a 5-minute monologue for every episode from each person on that podcast, and they're like, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, hit that notification icon to find out when we're producing new content. Spank us on our Patreon.
Wait, did you say spank us
Instagram.
on our Patreon?
I was joking about
You
that.
did.
They just said Patreon. They didn't say anything about spanking. I was just adding a bit of flavor to the story.
Oh, I see.
And then they were like, oh, you know,
Daddy's
They were like
Patreon.
some spice into this.
they were like, spank us on a Patreon. Come and get involved in our subreddit. Got to get involved in those discussions. You can message us on the private chat, the group chat with all of our fans. Yeah, you
All
got to
right.
get
Now
involved.
you're just doing an
I
advert
swear.
for us. You know, you're just doing an advert for us now. You might want to turn it to a 5-minute ad for this
To
channel.
be fair,
I'll do it at the end
has
of the
there been
episode,
proof-
yo.
Yeah, that's the thing though. It's been proved that it works. That's why they do
Yeah,
it.
it proves it works.
Yeah, it's effective. Like I hate it when channels ask me to subscribe and stuff, but it works. It gets people to subscribe. So why
Because
would
you
they not do
subscribe,
it?
you're like,
Just
oh, better
works.
subscribe.
Exactly. It's Fallout 76. It just works.
Well,
It's not a bug, it's a feature.
Oh yeah. What do you mean you're not
Watch
being?
Mojo.
What do you mean your videos aren't being pushed to your subscribers? And what do you mean they're only seeing Jimmy Fallon videos and late night talk shows? That has nothing to do with us. That's a
Oh
feature.
shoot me! Oh my gosh, I hate that so much. Whenever you go on like you're recommended and it's like Jimmy Fallon and what's his name, The Rock and Will Smith videos, and like who the hell are these? Are not YouTubers. This is not what I'm here for. Remove
Yeah,
them.
Hey,
Oh,
hey,
but-
Brie Larson.
but come on.
Thanks
You
for
Yeah,
popping by.
You
exactly.
have to leave-
Remove them.
you
I
have
don't
to
want
leave
that.
Will Smith out of it. Like, Will Smith has a pretty sick YouTube
No.
channel. Like, I'm actually surprised how good it is.
No. Will Smith is not a YouTuber. Will Smith was implemented into YouTube. I don't care if he has good shows. He isn't a YouTuber. End
Yeah, but who
of.
cares about labels?
On the other hand,
Like, what does it
Jack
matter?
Black as a YouTuber.
That's true.
Yeah,
No,
It's true.
Jack Black is a far better. He's not been implemented by this. He chose to do it, and he's a good time.
I guess I
Yeah.
guess my issue with it is whether they've been implemented into YouTube or whether they organically grew on YouTube. Something like Jack Black, I know that it sounds hypocritical or that I'd be more lenient because he did it organically. He didn't suddenly get like signed on by YouTube or by Google to do a YouTube rewind when he had really no relevance in that year, like Will Smith did. I mean, Will Smith made movies, but he didn't have any
Over the
relevance to
last
YouTube,
year.
did he? Yeah, he didn't really
Yeah.
have
For the
anything
last
to do with
10
YouTube.
years.
Yeah.
Will Smith
Yeah,
is
but
not a
wait,
YouTuber.
there have been-
Wait. Will
movies,
Smith is a
and there's been
relevant
the
person?
Fresh Prince reunion.
No, I'm talking about Jack Black.
Like, I don't know. I just feel like when you're integrating someone that isn't like see these TikTok stars like the Emilio sisters or something like that. I don't know who.
God.
Yeah, but they're TikTokers.
Not
They're not
TikTok.
YouTubers, but you will see them propped up on YouTube because obviously it brings in
Here's
money.
the thing. Look, this is a great subject, but it's leaking into our next topic.
And
Yeah,
we're
we
still
definitely
talking. We are
actually
talking about it.
talking
We are talking about
I mean,
social
listen,
media.
Yeah.
So we just say, I think that concludes part 1 of this podcast.
Yes, that does include
Which
part.
you've got it this far.
And time to
If you're
begin
still-
part 2.
If
Here
you're
we
still
go.
here after the
to
Part 2 is sponsored by insert
No one.
Raid Legends here.
Where space?
We're not being sponsored by anyone.
It's gonna
Stop
be
making
hosted
sponsorships.
by your boy. Part 2 is going to be
Hey, it's
hosted
their
by
offering.
your boy.
Not no
Hazzamaxman.
one.
So, we're talking about social media consumption and our behaviors and how that's changed over time. And I guess I never thought about how my behavior had changed due to or on social media until I just happened to casually watch a Netflix documentary called The Social Dilemma. And it involves basically the biggest figures in the creation of the social media machine talking about how their opinions have changed after working for the big firms like Google, Facebook, and Twitter in particular. And there are some shocking statistics out there. Like, for example, 210 million people as of 2019 suffer from social media addiction. Like, isn't that just a worryingly high statistic that something exists that isn't physical, a non corporeal form, is so powerful? Or, like, another statistic I found was that as of 2019 as well, in America, 50% of people driving whilst using a smartphone are checking social media. Although, having said that, I do recognize that social media isn't this horrible, poisonous beast that must be spanked and punished. Because, I mean, I love social media. Like, a day doesn't go by where I'm not on YouTube. I basically sleep with YouTube. It's under my pillow, it's in my bed, it's everywhere. So, I'm not saying social media is all bad because I love it. So, on that note, let's open it up. What are your thoughts on social media, guys?
So I'll open up. I really dislike social media, mainly because it's just the efficacies of the people in charge. I think Google have been quoted as saying, like, the chief operating officer said, their biggest rival is sleep. Not another company, but a physical need that we have to do in the human species is sleep. And that's their biggest competitor. They are taking data, and I'm not very happy. I think I've been a lot of people a lot younger than us, like if you're talking like Gen Z, don't really care about privacy, like compared to say our parents who would have been brought up during the Cold War and how much privacy meant to them. And I think there's so much shady stuff going on about footprinting, about how like literally we can sell personal info and literally a dossier of like of what we are and who we are as human beings, something that makes us unique, and then sell it to advertisers for about $3 per person. If you're actually, I think it's American, they sell it for $8. If you're in any other country, Europe sells for $3 per person, Asia $2, and Africa is like $1 per person. And I think the efficacy of all this and the ability to what it's had, particularly in the political landscape, about with how it's literally caused people to be entrenched in ideas and opinions of from the other what the other side of the aisle are saying, literally come from their own side. So stuff like Occupy Democrats, which is a popular YouTube page, they literally spend half the time talking about what Republicans are saying and about how bad that it is, and all they're doing is basically confirmation bias with their own group and creating these bubbles which people never leave. So funnily enough, when they lose election in 2016, they lose their shit and complain that Russia got involved. And likewise, when Trump lost, the Republicans lose their shit. And it's like you can't make it up that they both sides feel like no matter who wins, they feel they'll be robbed. Anyway, sorry, I went on a bit long.
Yeah, I guess I'll speak next. I'm inclined to agree with both of you. I think that you make a very good point, Jason, about how it's run. I've never really liked. Well, I don't know if I've never really liked. I don't know how much different it was 15, 13 years ago. But these past few years, and the first time I think about when social media was getting really bad, off the top of my head, was the Google Plus deal. If you remember that, like 2012, 2013. That's when I started to notice a shift in the corporations changing. But at the end of the day, they're all corporations. So my thing with that is, yes, I agree. They're all unethically run. They don't care about their users as much as they say they do. They really don't. They're out of touch with their users, especially YouTube. is very out of touch with its users, but at the very least, they let us chat shit about them and upload it on their site, so I'll give them that. Facebook has always been an issue with data. They admit to taking data from you and using it for their adverts and stuff like that. It's common knowledge. That being said, whilst I dislike how it's run, I do agree with Hazzamaxman. Social media is so important, like, to just people in general. I agree. YouTube is something I'm on every day, and I hate how YouTube is run. But there's a lot of content on YouTube I like. Maybe it's because of the lack of competition in that field, like video streaming, that I could go to someone else, and YouTube's really my only choice. I don't know. But, like, I admit I spend a lot of time on it. I spend a lot of time on Facebook, too, just looking up. I don't do anything political or anything that could, anything like that on Facebook, but, I like to look up memes on there. And stuff like that. So, whilst I am inclined to agree they're run bad, I use them a lot myself. So I don't know. I'd be a hypocrite if I'd say like we didn't need them. I guess, and like I'm definitely not helping the issue, because if I wanted to help get rid of these big corporations, I'd stop using the social media altogether. That's just my opinion on that. It's quite a cynical point, but whatever.
Anything to add, ZRift?
So I think there are quintessentially both good elements and horrible elements to social media. The idea of social media was, yes, it's a way of connecting with other people. It's a way of, reaching a wider audience. And that's fantastic. It's good. That's a good thing that we have. Previously, back in 90s or 80s, we wouldn't be able to have that contact with family across the world unless it was via a calling card or a landline phone. And now we have that ability to connect with them whenever we want, and that's fantastic. But at the point at which social media became something that can be monetized, and at the point at which we knew that social media could be something we could earn money off of, or companies could use to earn money off of us, everything else flew out the window. All of those elements became irrelevant. Now it's where you're at, where you shop, what you buy, who you talk to, whatever you do, when you sleep, whatever you do, they need to know it. Social media needs to know it, because you are the product. You are what they want. They want you to use it. I personally had to delete my Facebook. I made it my goal to delete my Facebook this year, because I couldn't. I didn't have any use for it, and I just didn't want to provide that information to Facebook. I was done with it. And you see even now with things like WhatsApp, because WhatsApp was implementing a new update recently where they were going to share your data with Facebook, or share whatever. They're saying that they were doing it for the business side of the corporation, but I don't believe that, to be honest. I believe the second you get integrated into Facebook, you're essentially just selling everything away. But once people find out about that, people wanted to leave. People didn't want anything, because people don't want anything to do with Facebook. The idea of social media and having to constantly be online, or constantly posing about yourself, posting what's the best about you, not only does it reinforce this idea that you need to be constantly updated because you have a fear of missing out, but it also reinforces this idea that you as a person are not achieving something, you're not doing something because you're not on social media. I barely post to Instagram, but I look at Instagram and I see all of my friends doing something. And depending on what kind of a person you are, you might feel, oh, maybe I'm not doing something, because they're still living their lives, even though we're all meant to be inside during COVID, but they're all still doing their things and doing here and there. But I think now we as people, and sorry if I'm going on a bit too long, we as people now, we need to realize that social media, especially politically, has just ruined any kind of discourse that we used to have. Any way that we used to be as people, where we normally sit down with someone we disagree with and have a conversation about them, about the topic. Like I said, for example, a lot of people disagree, obviously, Trump and Biden and all of that, and just the whole of the last 4 years in general. People have massive disagreements, but with social media like Twitter, you just like, there's no talking to somebody else. It's just if you say this, if you disagree with me on this, you're a Trump supporter. If you disagree with me with this, you're a socialist. You're a Republican. You're a conservative. You support Adolf Hitler. This and that. There's no more discourse. You're just talking into an empty void space and hoping, and you're just receiving like a bunch of like both positive reaffirmation and negative, just like nonsense and shit being flung at you. And I think that's the problem. Like a big problem with social media is it's become too monetizable now, which is a good thing and a bad thing. But I'll leave it at that.
Shout out
anyway.
to my boy Faruok Engineer. And for those of you who don't get the reference, again, no Swift covered car insurance. Anything to add?
Wow. I mean, I think all the points that could have possibly been made have been made, but in order to at least contribute something, I agree with all previous statements. I think social media is that dopamine spike that we all, that most people seek. I myself, I personally do not, engage with social media that much. I only use it to talk to my friends. I don't really scour on it or look around. I do, yeah, for the same reasons as my friend Nero. I would go onto Facebook to get memes and stuff and send it to my friends, or communicate with some people who I'm not that close, like not in close proximity to. But you know what I mean. What? As in terms of like, so if my, like say like my friends are all in a different part of the country, I can contact them, obviously. But no, I think it's that positive, as everyone mentioned before, it's that positive affirmation. It's people wanting to pose online to receive that little boost of dopamine, but I think it's definitely become very dangerous at this point because of, as you said, because of how it's been monetized and how it's been politicized, but also how it's been used as a kind of polarizing force. So as ZRift has mentioned before, if you can't say anything without being labeled as the opposing group, and that leaves very people in the middle. That leaves very little people in the middle. It doesn't seem to allow for people who either do not want to be part of the conversation, or be people who are trying to avoid it might say something but get involved unnecessarily. It's that whole kind of vortex. But yeah, the fact that corporations are monetizing this kind of stuff it's the downfall of, I would say, freedom of speech as well, because it's like, the ability to express yourself properly. It's obviously, as soon as it becomes monetized, there's certain things you can say, certain things you can't say, and it makes it very difficult. But apart from that, I don't think I can add anything original.
So before we move on to the next topic, why don't we just summarize what we talked about? So from the points of view that you guys have made, which I can't disagree with, I guess the key for the future is that social media, yes, is damaging in that it can be damaging to mental health, it can be damaging to physical health, it can be damaging based on purely an addictive basis that you start losing track of your priorities because you're more concerned about your social media presence, what your friends have posted, what your friends are getting up to, rather than the more important values and things in life, whether that be work or family commitments or simply living your life instead of looking at someone else's or posting a life through a lens. What we have to mention is that social media is just as powerful in the positive way. I mean, how many creators have we seen produce amazing content, whether it be, for me personally, weeb shit, so drawings, figurines, badass t-shirts that I have to spend $50 for on shipping, and I don't even feel bad about it because it's great stuff that they're making. Or the fact that, for example, one of my good friends from university moved to Korea, and he's teaching English as a foreign language in Korea, and I haven't seen him in 3 years, yet it feels like he hasn't left. It still feels like he lives next door to me in the accommodation halls because I can talk to him. Or my grandmother, for example, who lives on the other side of the planet, and I haven't seen her in, God knows, 2 years since my parents' wedding anniversary. And again, I talk to her every weekend. So I have an ability to uphold important connections that allow me to function on a daily basis. It allows me to be motivated to reach new goals. So I think the challenge is that, yes, social media is getting more powerful. Yes, social media is a business. But we have to learn how to show restraint and self-control. Because social media can only cause damage to you if you let it. If you're powerful enough, if you,
I do agree
pile
with
on
that. I do
that
agree with
mental muscle, if you exercise the
I
big
think
brain, big boy movement.
if social media, there are some parts of there. I don't know if I'm putting it in the right way, but social media to some degree, because of the amount of power that they now have, and I'm pretty sure this is not going to sound right. This isn't my end-all be-all argument of it, but I think like it shouldn't be in the private domain. It should be in the public domain.
I
It
agree.
shouldn't be something it shouldn't be something that a company uses to earn money off of. Because of the importance of social media nowadays, it should be something that is mainly overseen in the public domain. It shouldn't be Mark Zuckerberg owning Facebook or owning Instagram or owning whatever, or WhatsApp. It shouldn't be the Facebook as a private entity. At this point, it's such an essential thing for all of our lives that in order for these things to operate. So, for example, Twitter. Let's be honest about Twitter. Twitter is used, it was used by the President of the United States of America to make public and official announcements.
Yep.
It was used. It no longer is. I understand Twitter is a private entity, but Twitter at this point is when it was during his presidency, or when it was while Trump had access to it, it was an essential tool. He used it as an essential tool. So would there not be grounds for that to then suggest that something like Twitter should then be in the public domain? I know that this is an ideal argument, because obviously something being in the public domain means servers have to be run by public domains. Everything has, like, checks and balances have to be run by a public domain. And that's obviously impossible. You're not going to employ enough people to oversee every single post or tweet or something people make on Facebook or on Twitter. But the idea that I'm trying to reach at is these things are essential now. We need them as part of our lives. Yes, you should control how much you put on there, but it's like the internet essentially it is an essential part of our lives now to keep in contact with people. If you want to call your uncle, your auntie who's halfway across the world, you might call them up on WhatsApp. You're not going to use a phone. You might use like FaceTime, or you might use WhatsApp, you might use whatever ability you have. But should it not at this point quintessentially be that it is controlled by the public domain rather than by a private entity?
Okay,
there's problems with that too, though.
Yes, there is.
The main one immediately springs to mind is, oh great, you now have if we're talking public, are we talking governmental control? So that'd be controlled by the government in that country.
Exactly.
You
so basically,
imagine then telling everyone, oh yeah, the social media account that sells your data is now controlled by the person, the opposite party.
Yeah,
that's going to be a debate.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
I agree.
Like, I agree 100%.
Say, like, they're more conservative favouring since the Conservatives became in power because they controlled the budget.
That is the problem. For example, if you look at something like China owns their social network. China owns, if you go on WeChat and you say something about Winnie the Pooh, you're getting banned, and the Chinese police are going to end up on your doorstep. That's what you need to avoid, though, because it's that authoritarianism that you want to avoid. I understand completely. It's open to criticism, and I accept it, because yes, there is an argument for the public domain, and yes, there's millions of arguments against it. But my main point is that it is now an essential thing. That is the thing I want to get at.
So are you saying that, like, I'm trying to get, like, your point here. So are you saying that, like, so they shouldn't be, these private ones shouldn't be making money off it? Is that what you're getting at?
I think it should be broken up. If I guess they should be able to make money off it because they set it up. Twitter was set up by Jack Dorsey, so he should have the right to make some kind of money off it. But it comes back to the idea that, okay, yes, he can make money off it, but how much money does he need to make off it?
I mean, you could make the same argument about anything that's essential for our lives, though, that costs something.
But
do you feel it's right that we have to pay for a chair?
To the simplest. Let's boil it down to the simplest monkey brain form. The monkey brain form of this issue is that, yes, some people make far more money than they need. Some people have nowhere near enough. But it's one of those deep-rooted systemic inequalities that you'll never be able to get rid of. So, essentially, whilst all your points are perfectly valid, that as a publicly owned domain, you would tackle privacy issues, you would tackle some equity issues, you'd tackle some justice-based issues. Ultimately, that's so far up the ladder. And we are at the other end of the ladder, right at the bottom, in the pile of mud with the freaks and with the, bum boys. Like,
It's like,
Is
how
this a request rebrand?
Oof.
in the grand scheme
We
of
are
things,
now the
does it
freaks,
really-
everyone. Thanks, everyone. Nobody's just great.
In the
See
grand
ya.
scheme of things, does it really matter? Like, your points are valid, but all the negatives with social media are controlled if we continue to be educated about the negative impacts it can have. If we implement manageable,
you
sustainable
can educate
ways
someone
to
about something,
minimize
but they'll
impact.
still do it.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing.
Yeah,
is
but you
that
can't control that.
a lot of what Facebook, Google, whatever are trying to do is literally got so much money that they have positioned this is what annoys me. We think we need to have it. But that is purely down to Google and Facebook's marketing, their positioning of how they've done. Facebook have bought up everything and basically gone, "You need us," like because they know they don't want YouTube, and that's my biggest issue is that everyone here all said we need it.
Yeah.
And I think that is actually the biggest issue that we have. That's the biggest behavioral change. Is that 10 years ago we would never have said that. Whereas
No.
now we're going,
Guys.
we have to have it. We know it's bad. We know we don't like what they do, but I've got no other choice.
It's a scary thought.
Let me
Yeah.
throw in a nostalgic sigh. And you'll recognize why in a short while. Remember childhood in the early to mid 2000s? You'd go outside and play out with your friends.
Yeah.
Maybe crack open a nice
are you getting
jigsaw
at?
puzzle.
Hey, remember when it
You'd
wasn't
play
a
with
pandemic and
toys,
everything was great?
imagination. You'd play with toys, use a bit of imagination, have a good old rambunctious time with no technology. What a life.
I mean, I'm going to directly counter that and say, how dare you say that Minecraft's not creative? Because I mean, that's the thing. We all keep saying we're being creative using imaginations, but the most popular video game in the world is literally you can build anything.
And let's think about it like this: social media has also opened up a lot of job opportunities for people, especially now in the during the pandemic.
Yeah, you're right.
People
if we want
can
to talk
become
about things for good, we've got the Arab Spring. That was purely organized through Twitter and Facebook, and the fact that the government wasn't involved in it.
Very true.
So maybe social media is only good when no one has any involvement in it.
You know why I don't like the public domain idea?
Go ahead.
Like, how much money should people be making off stuff? That's the point you're getting at. That's one of the points you're getting at. Here's the thing.
It's a difficult question.
Where do we draw the line with that?
Yep, where's the ceiling?
Like, so do we just start make every essential thing free? Because technically we shouldn't be paying for electricity either.
Well, hey, there is such a thing as the the tampon packs or something. The tampon tax was removed recently. That's an essential item, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah, but there's a
So
reason
women should not be paying. Women should not be paying for tampons because it's an essential
Make
product,
tampons
right?
free.
Yeah, exactly.
Make condoms free.
Yeah, it's an essential item.
Storm the Capitol
I'm
for free sexual
you can't-
prophylactics. Let's go.
You can't just be like, this shouldn't make money and then just leave it at that, because people are going to go, well, hold on, then this shouldn't make money and this shouldn't make money.
Yeah,
I agree with you. You give
what
human
this
race
sounds
an
like?
inch, they'll take the whole mile.
It sounds like seizing the means of productions, boys.
Now we're getting
Let's
into
go!
the proletariat.
Come on.
The proletariat versus the
The
capitalist.
Second part.
At the end of the day,
this
here's
topic.
what I'm going to... These companies were made by... they're companies. At the end of the day, they want to make a profit. So, like, you'd have to change... I think you'd have to change, like, the infrastructure of how your country works before you start tackling if social media can make money or not.
Yeah,
No, I
because
mean-
Okay, I think the problem with the problem with the social media that we're referring to specifically is because they are all centralized under one systemic part, in one place specifically. They're all owned by predominantly American companies in Silicon Valley. That is where we're getting the main sort of issue from, because it's according to their rules. It's not because a country's operating somewhere else. It's because they come from there, and they're operating on their values. They're not operating on the values of another country or another company. So I think the key thing that the thing that we need to address or worry about is the fact that it's all of these companies essentially have sort of a centralized idea and a centralized way of control and a centralized way of operating. I think that's one of the key things that we need to focus on as well. Like
So-
the big tech is all there.
You mentioned rules, and it suddenly popped into my head because I think it was Nero who mentioned that Trump used it as a necessity for public for communications as a government.
No, I didn't say.
That would be ZRift.
Sorry,
ZRift
who
who mentioned
did?
it.
I know. I thought someone said he used it as a they needed. Anyway, I might have picked up the wrong person, or I might be going mad.
No,
Who knows?
you're correct. You're
Anyway.
correct.
You are definitely going mad. That's confirmed. 2021
Okay.
confirmed. Hashtag.
oof.
Well,
Hashtag burn. Hashtag cool.
Well, see you on Mars, everyone. So essentially, speaking of Trump and Twitter and rules, where one of the big things particularly in Western countries, is the idea of freedom of speech.
Yes.
And I'm guessing most of you can see where this is going. What do people think about the fact that being on Twitter was a necessity for being president and being able to do public statements? How big do you think that the fact that his ability to have a say was basically stopped by a private company?
Let me go first on this.
Yeah.
If you don't mind.
I have
Right.
phrased that deliberately, by the way.
I get
So
what-
let me
get
go
what
I phrased
you're
it
getting at.
deliberately.
First.
Here's the
Guys,
thing. I
okay.
get what you're getting at. But
Right.
I think we draw the line when it led to like. I know, like, if you want to be generic about it, yeah, they stopped his freedom of speech, right? And technically, what he didn't actually commit any acts, but considering what he said led to those bad acts,
It
I
was
think
kind of the act of radicalization.
Okay, cool. That's
Let
similar
me
to how I
follow
was
up.
thinking.
But
I was like,
hold on.
Let me
He
follow up
didn't
on
use
this
Twitter to
particular
say
issue.
those things though. It wasn't Twitter that he said it. He said it in public.
He
said it-
let me-
Why should he
let
be
me
punished
follow
on
up.
Twitter?
Mhm.
Why should he be published on
this
Twitter? Because
particular
he,
issue.
if you think of it legally, he didn't use the platform to say what he said. He said it in public in front of an audience. So why should he then be punished on Twitter? And I'm not saying he should be I'm not saying he should be brought back onto it. I'm just saying, why should Twitter then have the right to punish him for something he did off their site?
I think it's more
Let
the
me
case
follow
of
up. Let me
profile.
follow up. So, all I have to say on this particular issue is that it is important that a political figure knows how to use social media, because a huge part of that profession is public appearance. Can you maintain public confidence in your profession? And ideally, your acts and the way you speak and your thoughts and opinions would address and uphold public confidence in your profession, in the way that your country's being run. So this means that no matter how strongly you feel about an issue, innately you should have the right to talk and post about it on social media. And consequences that follow cannot be the fault of the one that posted unless they explicitly asked someone to do it, or they explicitly said themselves that they were going to instigate said consequences. Like, let's say for a hypothetical, tomorrow, as part of my dry, sarcastic, British-ass nature, I'm like, yo, let's go to Buckingham Palace and drop a sick beat, boys, right in the palace. If people actually do that, it's not my fault. It's not like I went to Buckingham Palace with a boombox, decided to break in past the security guards, and drop a sick beat. If someone's done that, it's their fault for acting upon my message. If I specifically ask that person to do it, then it becomes my fault because I instigated it. Simply saying
get-
something out there on the internet doesn't make it your fault.
Yeah.
I get what you're getting at. I get what you're getting at. But state.
Yeah, I think personally, this all kind of stems from the idea that the Americans use electronic voting, and that thing is easy to hack and change the results in, which means no one has trust in the election, which then blah 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 blah. Oh look, there seems to be people in the Capitol building.
Yeah.
I think that personally, a large following, I think you should be aware that what you can say can skew what they do. That's my
Just for,
take on
just for
that.
the record, I am playing
Yeah, but
devil's advocate.
you can never predict how people are going to react. Even if you're a massive YouTuber, if you're a YouTuber with millions of subscribers and you say, "Oh, I didn't really like this person's video," you can't, that's the only thing you've said. I didn't really like this person's video, but you can't be held accountable for the 10 million or 300 people that will go and chase that YouTuber and downvote their video, flag their video, and accuse them of being a homophobe or a racist or a Nazi or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
you can't be held accountable for that.
What do you think about
I don't
Legend Apollo, who recently committed suicide? Where do we draw? Do we?
Yeah.
Because would you say that because he was publicly ousted, and then got threats because the people said, "Well, what you're doing is wrong." Where do we count that as? Where do we group that in?
His situation is a bit sort of like, it's a bit more confusing,
issue.
and I wouldn't want to speak on it without knowing the full on context, because there was several people that got involved in that issue, involving Keemstar, involving Dark Viper AU, that several accusations and stuff. I wouldn't want to speak on that without knowing the full context of it, but you do raise a valid point on it.
Yeah.
So,
No, I wasn't
I
going
don't
to
know-
name names because I just used it. I was just sorry. Here. Sorry.
Oh, no,
Didn't
go
actually
ahead,
wasn't
go
paying
ahead.
attention
Make
to
your
Discord, but it was more like I wasn't going to name names because I know this happens all the time. You see it with all the time on YouTube where someone says one thing and then suddenly everyone gets on the bang rag and starts trolling them, and it leads to distress to the other person. And it's one of those things where you go, yes, you could make the question point that they should be held responsible, which is what Twitter and Facebook did with Trump. But also Trump's in a massive piece of power, so you could easily say that because he has that much power, he has that much more responsibility, and so therefore should be deleted.
I'd say the current, who's still as we speak, he's still the president, right? As of the time.
Yeah, he's still the president.
I think there is a lot of responsibility that comes with ruling a country. You can't compare that to hosting a YouTube channel. As much as you want to make the comparisons, it's not comparable.
Yeah,
But the mentality can still apply. The mentality can still be valid.
Right. Sorry.
So I don't know about the specifics of the issue at hand. However, what I will say on autonomy over content you post on your social media is that you can post anything that you want on social media. However, you do have to be aware of at least the most obvious consequences, positive and negative, that your post will have on the public before you make that post. And in an ideal world, no one would post controversial content on social media because they would look at their post in draft mode and they'd be like, okay, so the positives that could happen from this post are ABC. The negatives could be ABC. So let me alter it to make it less controversial. Something like that. However, just because you're aware of 3 negative and 3 positive outcomes from your post, it doesn't mean that you can control that 5th or 6th negative outcome that you never saw coming. But yes, everyone should govern what they say on social media with a level of strictness. So it would be, I'd say posting on social media is the equivalent of a job interview. Yes, you want to show off your personality.
But would you then not argue that
but
that becomes
within a
that
certain
starts to
extent.
would you then not argue that starts to teeter on the line of censorship? You're censoring yourself for the greater good idea. Like, you're not posting something that's true about yourself. If you have an opinion that where you disagree with someone, let's say for example you upload in a video where you say a video game is fantastic, and I say no, I disagree with your opinion. Does that mean that because I need to think that potentially my fans might go to your video, that I need to censor how I say it? Like, what do I say then? Do I say I don't agree with you, or what do I do in that situation? Because now I'm having to limit.
Look, I get what you're getting at, but I don't think this is like a black and white issue.
No, it's not. But I'm
Let
just
me
saying.
respond with an example. So,
yeah, and
a couple of days ago on Facebook, I got into a debate with a fellow Facebook user about the differences in animation style for Haikyuu season 1 to 3 versus season 4. Now, the post that I made was that while season 4's animation in the crucial moments was far superior, on an episode to episode basis, season 4's animation is inferior to 1 to 3. Now, the fellow Facebook user, responded saying, I couldn't disagree more with your point. I feel season 4's animation is much better, it's much more fluid, and the artist should have freedom to experiment with different art styles. Just because it's different to season 1 to 3, it doesn't make it worse. Now, I subsequently responded, the difference between our conversation and a more controversial one is, even though we're sitting on opposite sides of the fence, at no point is it getting aggressive, offensive, and at no point is there an unrelated personal attack of any of the users. We're simply disagreeing on a form of medium, and we're talking about why we disagree. But at no point does it get personal or offensive or unnecessarily aggressive. It's not like in the middle of the conversation I'm like, you're a twat. Who cares what you think? At no point does it get to that stage. And I think that's the difference. You can say what you want, but be respectful about it. So it's not censorship. It's just tailoring the way that you make your point to optimize outcome. Like, for example, if I'm talking with you guys, I will speak freely. I'll swear, I'll make sarcastic jokes, throw in the odd meme, the odd Cartoon Network reference. But I don't talk to my parents like that. When I talk to my parents, there's a strict no swearing policy. We talk about serious and occasionally funny home-related issues, like, did you hear that noise the washing machine made? That was pretty weird, right? Or we're watching MasterChef together, and we're like, can you believe he fucked up that dish? Lol. So you see, you're not censoring yourself, you're just adapting the way that you talk based on the situation. And everyone does that on a daily basis. So you simply have to do the same thing online. Just adapt the way you talk.
If we go by your statements, we're going to be bogged down in examples.
Yeah. I think my main thing for me is that I think that that's an idealist view, because I think that it's frustrating because yes, ideally people will talk about that, but a lot of the times when you go online, it's what a particular narrative has been said, and a lot of people, because there's this idea of whether you believe in cancel culture or not, there are definitely people who believe in it, and the fact that they feel they can't actually speak their mind because they're being socially censored rather than from the private companies. That when it comes to certain aspects, people assume that there's this overriding positive backing of this of a movement, when actually, if you actually went to the society as a society, it would be a mixed bag. Like, I think it's kind of proven by the fact that even in the last election, Trump was a lot closer to winning than a lot of people thought, and I think that's because a lot of people were fucking scared shit that the fact that they say anything like, actually, I don't like Trump as an individual, but I like the fact that his focus on the economy, and I like the fact that he got his pro jobs, pro small business mentality was allowed me to build a company. We're not allowed that discussion. Like, that's the thing, we don't get to that second part of the conversation of, it's like, you support Trump, fuck you, you're racist.
I would, to be fair, I don't think social media actually started that. I think that's been a thing in politics way before social media was a thing.
But because social media has been a
no.
thing, it allows people to flood the, open the
It's
floodgates
the
kind of
medium.
to all the comments.
Yeah.
The fact
Yeah,
that
it's
social
like-
media is social media has granted you anonymity, and that's why it's
Yeah.
now a thing on social media.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you might have done that in the past, but you harbored those opinions and you spoke about it at the dinner table with your family. You didn't go out in public and tell people about it.
And
You was
also,
like,
you
oh no,
probably
I
did
don't.
it in a much more respectable manner.
Yeah.
To be fair, though, it depends what you're
Yeah.
talking about, though, because there was a lot of stuff on television where you could have, especially in America, the news channels just be like, even before the internet was be a thing, like, you agree with this, you're not American.
Yeah. But the thing is
Oh
that,
yeah, but don't forget,
Yeah.
as social media is basically American, we should stop talking about American media because I think they are American media is just a form of social media on television.
American media is
Yeah.
just a nightmare. It's
But
just
the
a-
thing, my biggest
So-
thing for me is actually another thing is actually I think this is purely based on two different studies, and I'm just going that makes sense. The fact that social media and any kind of media is reliant on advertising. The things that get shared the most on social media by far is angry posts. Like, we're not talking marginal, we're talking like 6 times more likely to be shared if that person is angry. So
Yeah.
you may
Unfortunately
say
true.
that you may say that they didn't start the fire, but they definitely didn't stop themselves from putting fucking kerosene on it.
Yeah, very
They
true.
definitely stoking it, yeah. But I think one of the things we tend to forget, though, is that when things are posted online, there are billions and billions of different individualist people who will react to this very differently. And it's like, I know that, obviously one shouldn't censor themselves, but it is the whole maybe, peanut allergy thing, if you know what I'm saying. It's like maybe some people will react to it, like normally and go, oh yeah, fair enough, or may even disagree, but on a polite scale. But some people just do react almost,
Aggressively.
if you know.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Some people
to the
take it
point.
as an
Yeah.
inherent insult to themselves.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's this, and because you have so many different kinds of people on the internet, so some people will be passive and mature, and be understanding, and maybe go, oh, what you said may have been, you probably can offer some constructive criticisms maybe to the argument, but there are going to be always going to be those people who will see your post, and some of them might not fully understand. It could be ignorance that causes the outlash. But in the specific case of Trump, I would personally argue that there was a lot, because obviously he did, all the things he said about, the stoking of the fire. He did go, yes, it was the, what's it? He did say that some of the voting things were, he said he
He did
claims
talk
that they were
about the voting
faked and
system being
stuff.
frauded. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the thing. And even though he did not make his statement about on at Washington DC online, it's allowing people like that who understood. I think he understood what was going on and thus used it as a method of. I don't think he was going to. He didn't think he was going to realize it was going to go that way necessarily. But I don't think he was there to watch people passively protest.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So
I also want to throw up in contrast the
Oh, go
2016
ahead.
election
Mm.
that actually a lot of Democrats did say, oh, Trump got him through Russian bots and such and such. I think the big difference is that it didn't come from any of the leadership. I think the same things were being said by both sides. The problem is then it got made official by Trump, which meant that he basically validated the claims from his point of view and his side. Sorry, Hazzamaxman.
So, if you don't mind, I was thinking we conclude this topic and move on to our last one. So, finishing thoughts
boy.
on it.
Yeah, sorry.
Finishing thoughts on this particular topic. Social media is as powerful negatively as positively. Because it contains the opinions of so many people, inevitably, a post that you make will elicit some form of negative reaction, even if it wasn't intended to do so. Therefore, the only thing you can do from an individual perspective is be as respectful as you can. To some extent, control and be careful about what you say and how you say it, and try to get your friends and your family members to do the same. As many people as you can influence to be respectful on social media, the better. But inevitably, you can't stop those aggressors on social media who want to create a controversy, who do react to everything aggressively. You can't control them and you can't stop them. But you can minimize the number of people in your local sphere that act like them. That's essentially it.
Human decency.
Yeah.
It's asking a lot, but it's possible.
Well,
You're
is
assuming,
asking a
I don't know.
lot,
you're
but what
assuming
else can you
people
do?
can be humane.
yeah, based upon 2020 and 2021, I don't think human decency is even a thing anymore. I wouldn't be surprised if God said, "Hey, let's strike this
believe in
planet
the
with thunder and ash.
intergalactic-
Let's go."
I believe in the
Control of the league.
intergalactic warlords of Lamonki and Mike
This is
Wazowski,
extraordinary.
so
The
I'm all
anti-bias
good.
sent out.
Anyway, let's move it on to the next topic, shall we?
Right. So so this topic is the opening of 30 Amazon Go's in the UK. Now, for those of you unaware of what Amazon Go is, it's a cashierless like supermarket, or like kind of convenience store sort of thing. So this isn't new. This is actually in terms of it being in the UK, obviously it's going to be this year and it's going to be quite fresh and new. But the Amazon Go has actually been running since, I believe, 2016. And it's been it was initially tested in Seattle. And so 4 years late, probably 4 to 5 years later, it's coming to the UK now. There's probably going to be people on both sides. It's actually quite. I would personally say it's quite controversial because they're not controversial in the normal way, but it is dividing in some regards because obviously with coronavirus being as it is, people want less human interaction because they don't want to catch any viruses. The more you talk, the more people you interact with, the more chance there is of spreading disease. But also it's, I would argue, made people less social. It's made people less more socially anxious, I would say. People don't want to be conversing with the cashier, as it may. So what Amazon Go has created is a cashierless system which uses certain technologies like AI learning algorithms. They've also got tracking. So when you enter the shop, your Amazon Go app will open, and the shop will monitor your movements. So you will go around the shop, pick up certain items, put them in your backpack, and then once you are done, you can leave without having to go to a checkout at all, and it will tally up the items and take it from your Amazon account. So obviously this allows for certain things to happen. For one, what has been noticed is that the products that are being sold are cheaper than they would be anywhere else. So in Seattle, when they did their experiment, they were able to do it cheaper than most of the other competitors in the area. Not marginally, so it's 8p less, 10 cent less, stuff like that. But it allows for a cheaper, almost, what's the word, cashierless way of doing things. And I was wanting to know what people's thoughts on it were. So first of all, we shall start with my boy Nero.
Well, I can see the advantages to it because I think I imagine it's more efficient. I imagine reducing stuff like human contact, especially in this time, is a good time. Can I ask, how does stocking up of the supplies work? If you could answer that.
Yeah, so stocking will be done manually, but instead of having to hire cashiers, all they would have to do is hire people stocking. I believe they have a stocking system of their own, so they will monitor what's kept, the amount of stock they have. But in terms of the actual stocking process, it's currently still human based. So people will be hired to stock it, but there won't be cashiers to serve.
Well, you see, like at the end of the day, like I would be sad about the amount of jobs that this could potentially
Yeah,
lose.
which
But,
is
but to be fair, all this means is that they're just going to make more people work in Amazon warehouses. Here's the thing: I don't like a future of cashierless stuff, and the only reason I say that is because I just find the thought really depressing. And what makes that like even more so is the fact it's Amazon. Everything these days is Amazon.
yeah, it's
Like
true.
one third of corporations at this point is going to be owned by Amazon. In the future, it's just I don't like the lack of competition. I find it depressing that we're only going to have like basically one option to get our stuff from eventually.
Yeah,
In a worst case scenario, this is assuming these things hit off and get really successful. But the thing
Uh,
is, I just don't like the idea of it because I just don't like the idea that this one corporation can have that much sway over the market and like put a lot of competition out of the business because of that, which could potentially happen if this new kind of shopping gets successful.
yeah, and also if it became successful, it might influence other current supermarkets to change their whole system as well.
Yeah,
Because obviously what the Amazon have figured out is that it's actually cheaper
no,
to hire, so it could be a growing problem.
We
Well,
have
the reason-
self-service at the moment.
yeah, but they're definitely doing it because to save money. But at the same time, it's like I just think that like if this is the future of where shopping is going, it's not even the fact that it's cashierless. That's not bothering me because at the end of the day, as I said, even if it makes people jobless in the cashier industry, they're probably just going to hire more people to work Amazon anyway for their warehouses. What bothers me is the fact it's Amazon, and I could see them totally having complete because this is their way of doing it. I could see them having complete dominance in this industry, and I'd hate to see a bunch of companies go out because Amazon basically put them out. And then we're in a future where 1/3 of the world is Amazon, 1/3 is Disney, and 1/3 is fucking Facebook or some shit.
So who's next?
The Facebook group.
Tesla.
Yeah, it's just a depressing thought because it
Yeah.
just limits what you can have, and like everything will just come off like samey.
I think the thing is actually one of the big things is actually the loyalty of customers. I think a lot of people may not necessarily go to Amazon because they only got 30 stores, remember, so it's not like they're going massive in and being able to get to those areas. I think a lot of people would rather somewhere where they get quality. It's part of the reason why people go to Waitrose and not Lidl's or Asda, because they assume that because it's Waitrose it's higher quality. And that's the thing that Amazon's going to have to deal with, is literally that same kind of ideology of, okay, what is Amazon actually in terms of price wise? Is it going to be cheaper for the sake of being cheaper? So the product themselves aren't necessarily as good, or maybe are only just as good as maybe you can get Tesco's or Asda. But that's the thing. I always remember one of the big things I remember learning is if the only way to differentiate yourself as a company is price, you've already lost the battle.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing for me, is that actually there might be a lot of logistical things that Amazon will fuck up initially. And I think, put it this way, Amazon tried to get into the phone business and completely, you don't see that anymore. They don't.
Very true. But to be fair, a brand can be have a lot of sway.
Personally,
No, that is true.
It is actually the
pro
current
the
way of
move.
thinking is that actually the biggest way to market is to grow your brand, not a particular product. Because
Yeah,
one of the biggest reasons why people come back to buy you is actually because they like your brand.
Why do people buy
personally,
Apple products? Because of the brand.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So personally,
Yeah.
I just want to say quickly that I'm pro this move. I mean, we base a company's success based upon their ability to fill a void in the market that needs to be filled, to innovate. And so what if Amazon are expanding their business? That is essentially their job, to find new ways to improve, to find new ways to become a more successful company. They found a gap in the market that needs to be filled, and they're going out there and doing it. So I understand the positive from their perspective. And then if you look at it from the customer's perspective, is it really so bad if so much of what we buy comes from Amazon? It would seem to make things more convenient, because you would only have to sign up to one app, in theory, one service, and in that one Amazon app, if you wanted to buy a TV show, done. If you wanted to buy furniture or toys or appliances or any of those daily Amazon purchases that most people make, its initial function, you can do that. And now if you want to buy groceries, you can do that too, without the risk of contracting or transmitting COVID by talking to someone, by swiping your card on a machine that hundreds of others have used. And the shopping experience becomes much more seamless and fluent. So I don't really see what the problem is with the move.
Fair enough. What about you, Z?
I hate it, but I can understand why they're doing it.
Well, you can understand why any business is doing what they're doing.
Yeah, they are doing it because essentially it is another way to gain more market share and market power.
More data.
More data, more sort of awareness of where you are, what you're doing, all of that. But I hate it because of the idea. Well, even going back to what Haz is saying, you can buy all stuff on one site, on one place. But yeah, that eliminates competition.
That's a depressing thought.
You're reducing the ability for competition, reducing the idea that some other company can come up and sell the same product or sell a product, and you could go to them instead. Yeah. You can have you might have just one app to log into, which is fine, but why? My idea is, my issue with it is like Nero said, it's essentially Amazon again, and Amazon already has a massive market power and market share. They practically dominate the sort of the online buying market, that alongside with eBay. Now they want to try and get involved in the groceries, because again, groceries are an essential tool. You will need to buy groceries, so there will always be money for Amazon to make in groceries, and always more market power and market share to make in groceries. I personally don't like it. I personally wouldn't go in to Amazon, to an Amazon store and use it. One, because even though I tend to use self-service myself, I still want that the service of a person being available. I think the reason why Amazon is doing it now is because of the COVID pandemic. If it wasn't for COVID, this wouldn't have picked up as well as it did, or pick up to the point where we are at now. The idea that you won't have to interact, but it's only interacting with a cashier. Like, that's only one person. You're still interacting with the people in the shop. It's not going to be like, oh, you only enter and then you exit before the next person enter. That's where the main cases of transmissions are happening, isn't it? It's with other people. It's not necessarily with the cashier. And I don't like the idea of as again Nero said, the job element of it, that people are losing jobs, because even cashiers is a necessary job to have. It is something that, well, I would consider an essential job to have. And if I was to dip into the conspiracy side of this a little bit, I don't like it because it again employs this idea of humans being dependent upon cards, like them being able to trace your expenditure, your income, your costs, how much you're producing, which shops you shop at, and this idea that would they want to move us from a coin based system or a paper based system to a more electronic based system, and this sort of idea that they don't want you working, they just want you consuming, because if you work, you can buy things, you can buy different things, you can own your own house, you can own your own means or something. But if Amazon has if you only shop at Amazon and no one works there, only people restocking or potentially robots restocking, then well, where's the need for human element? We don't have to pay human health care or human wages or provide human resources for humans, because now they'll all just be dependent on us. But that's just a conspiracy side of it that I'm dipping into. But I personally don't agree with it, and I personally wouldn't shop there.
Same.
if I'm building on that, I think culturally, as in the UK, it'd be very frowned upon if it becomes overly roboticized. I quite like the idea. As if I was like, for me, I do find it quite time consuming, particularly if you're in like busy city centers. Like, it makes sense for me if you're busy working, literally running to and from one place to another for business. It's so much easier just to grab the stuff you need and get out. And by not having to have people, you could make it in theory run 24/7 without having to have people to be up at ridiculous times.
That is true. Yeah, that is.
So
there is positives to it, 100%.
Yeah, there is. But
It's thing. I think the thing is, I like the technology. I don't like the brand.
So,
And that for me is, that's essentially the crux of the argument. Is actually none of us have an issue with the tech that's being used or why it's being used, because I think it's been going that way for donkeys. And to be honest with you, the only surprise is I'm surprised this kind of revolution hasn't already happened in Eastern countries who are much more accepting of roboticized technology and technology being introduced into the market. Like in the Philippines, there's a robot dog walking around telling people to reminding them to social distance. If that dog was in the UK, it would have been fucking punted into the nearest lake
would have been stolen.
or graffiti.
Yeah, it would have
exactly.
been. It would have
But
been.
that is what we're dealing with. Like in the UK and US, that is that cultural barrier that I think Amazon have to work to get beyond.
I don't think it'll be successful in the UK because again, it's like Jason said. In UK, we tend to like some kind of idea of quality or some kind of idea of
Traditional
of getting
concept
customer
rather than
service. Yeah,
tradition.
getting good customer service. So in the case of, for example, you go to a John Lewis or a Marks and Spencer, you know the staff there are going to be proper, nice and prim and lovely because they have a vested interest in the business. So they have an vested interest in providing you the best kind of quality service. If you go into an Amazon store and something goes wrong, I don't know, internet goes down or something happens, or maybe the barcode scanned the wrong food and you ended up paying for something that you didn't buy. There might be like customer service, but it's not going to be on the level of John Lewis or Marks and Spencer's. It's not going to be like you're not getting an experience, a pleasant experience. You're just kind of walking into a place, picking up stuff, and then just walking out. There's no experience there. You went to the grocery shop.
So the only thing that I'm going to add to the point that I already made is that whilst I'm pro the movement, I don't personally think I would shop at an Amazon supermarket. And I think that's just because me, like most British people, are a fan of routines. So when you start doing things a certain way, particularly in my case, I continue doing it that way. So for example, for the past 4 or 5 years, I've been shopping at Tesco and or Waitrose. Now Tesco and or Waitrose are my only supermarkets. Now, sometimes I've experimented with other supermarkets like Asda and Sainsbury's, but just because I'm a fan of routine, I don't change. So whilst I don't mind Amazon's attempt and their innovation, there are going to be challenges, particularly with the cultural aspect of operating in a country like ours, but I still don't see it as a problem. Like, with regards to the job issue, I feel like, okay, fine, there will be less cashiers employed at these supermarkets, but they'll surely need to employ people for stocking. They'll need to employ people for managing the internet, for managing the technical issues. They must have some IT support managers, and they're going to need more than one. And it could potentially incentivize the job market to upskill. So now you need a decent level of IT and technological experience if you want to work at the supermarket. And what if Amazon provide the training for those employees? Then
it's not it's not a bad point. It does offer more job opportunities in certain areas. I agree.
Yeah,
but it doesn't necessarily that doesn't necessarily mean that opportunity will be available for everyone. You know, if you're talking about upscaling,
people taking cashier jobs.
Yeah, I mean, you have to essentially provide for those that provide an essential role for those that don't necessarily want to upskill. You know, if you just say, oh, you just have to do it, but what if you don't provide the opportunity to do it?
May have to work in the warehouse to stock up the shelves, for example. There'll be more of those
to be
people.
fair, no, I do agree with that, and that's a point I brought up as well. The warehouse, there'll probably be more warehouse job opportunities, and to be fair, that probably doesn't require a lot of skill to do. So
But
I can
remember
imagine
how horrible
Uh,
these warehouse opportunities are, though. Remember the work conditions in Amazon warehouses.
Yeah,
where
they're
people,
bad.
yeah,
They're
where
bad,
you have to
100%.
you have to sprint
True.
around to do the daily sort of shopping. Like, yeah, it might give you more jobs, but boy, if you suddenly get a chronic arrest or something because you've been running around a 500-meter long warehouse or however big they are, well, you're not going to depend on Amazon to provide the health coverage, are you?
That
No.
is a problem.
To be honest, really, it's just shifting. One of the major things is that you're now shifting the blame one step over. It's like you're no longer now, oh no, it's not our problem anymore. It's blah blah blah. It's like there's no, what do you call it? No one
Accountability?
accountability. Yeah, that's like, and one of the key things is actually this is a continuation from not even, like, from the Great Recession, like nearly in 2008. Nearly 92% of all jobs that were created afterwards were white collared and needed a university degree. And I think there's the argument actually that more and more of a university degree is now essential to have a university degree, which then begs the question of, is school not, because the whole point was that by the time you're 16 you should have all the education you need. I think there's a point that we could argue that school is failing to do that, and people have to go to university then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
I agree.
That's an interesting
What
point.
the multiple things people have mentioned were technical issues, and that brings me to my favorite point about this subject, which I was saving for this part, which is exploits.
Oh, 100%. I'm surprised
yeah.
you brought it up.
here we
Hack it.
go.
Hack the frick out
Oh,
of it.
here we go.
So basically, if you've watched Linus Tech Tips, you will know that at one point, but early on when it was first starting out, they had a video talking about exploits, where people were able to, the crew were able to find ways of exploiting the system to be able to get free products. And so in this scenario, the host of the show went in to buy tampons for their girlfriend, and also do some grocery shopping themselves. And because of how at that point in time the system was quite temperamental, so sometimes there were cases where people would pick up someone else would pick up an object nearby someone, but the person nearby would get charged for it. And so they developed a system where they had to do refunds and such, but in a way that you couldn't prove that you needed to refund the object. So this person was able to declare that they wanted to get a refund on an object that they weren't going to hand back. And so obviously this got patched later on, but because of how the system is totally autonomous, there is, well, when I say totally autonomous, I mean in terms of the actual cashiering system. Do you think that it would be safe to do so, like knowing the unpredictabilities of it all, do you think is a safe method of doing shopping?
No.
Safe for who?
Safe for the customer, so obviously customer / maybe even the store themselves.
You're leaving yourself up. You're leaving yourself up way more open to a electronic attack, aren't you? Because now everything's been connected on the phone. If someone, I mean, even the most basic of crimes, if someone just NFCs your phone and they get all your account details, if they get in close proximity enough, well, then they can buy stuff on your behalf, isn't it? Doesn't matter. I'll buy 1,000 bottles of Lacoste champagne or something, and don't worry, I ain't footing the bill because I got this guy's credit card. You're leaving yourself open to a variety of financial attacks by codifying everything to your phone, which is why I kind of prefer having separate sort of, like, I don't need to take my card with me everywhere I go because I don't need to use it. I don't, I feel like, no. I feel like you by doing that, you're leaving yourself up to lots of hacking, technical glitches, and stuff that's just going to end up causing a lot more worry than it's worth.
Yeah, I mean, you're trading.
I have to agree with
security.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, really, that is
Because,
just
I
the
mean,
21st century in a nutshell.
Yeah, 100%.
Imagine
Like,
if
if I-
you're in a situation where Amazon supermarkets somehow manage to dominate the grocery business and you lose your phone. Then what happens? Imagine if you accidentally
find the
left your
nearest
phone on the
person
bus
to
and
you and
someone
beat the
picks it
crap out
up.
of them.
You go to your off license. Go to your nearest off
Like,
license
it's
and hope for the
worrying,
best.
isn't it, though? Like, if someone happened to
Also,
take your
I know
phone by
potential books, right?
accident... Oh, sorry.
No, go for it. No,
I was just going to say, imagine if you lose your phone and someone else gets a hold of it. Not only do they have access to your card details, your personal emails, your personal contacts, now they could potentially have access to, your personal consumption history at the supermarket. They could go to Amazon and buy whatever they want.
Heck, they could just walk into the shop with your phone and then start buying things without you knowing.
Exactly. Yeah.
If I'm being honest, it's not that too dissimilar to what happens nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean, if someone steals your phone now, you still have all those same risks. So realistically,
yeah, but this is an additional one.
Biggest difference is more
problem.
the fact that it's more like a hotspot for people to go in and do that kind of fraud. But on the flip side, you're talking about exploits. I mean, you can easily think about. I'm going to use Deliveroo here. You could easily claim that the food is cold when it turns up. They have no proof, and there's no way to tell. You literally, what they do is they send you an email saying we're very sorry, and then that's it. If you send an email back, you are almost guaranteed to get a refund.
Wow.
Because or some kind of reimbursement of the amount of items that you said were cold. Because there is no way for them to prove that it was happened or something went on. If you just cause enough of a fuss, you get the money back.
Yeah.
That's happened to me before with cold food.
Wow.
So then I go into the Amazon shop, say my milk was warm, pay me back my money.
Yeah.
Well, did you talk to the robot? To the robotic customer service?
It just kept telling me, please try again.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair though, it's Amazon. They wouldn't care as much.
Yeah.
Be like,
Amazon already making bank. They won't care about if I get a couple of pounds back.
To be fair though, sorry. But Amazon, after obviously this happened and people found exploits, Amazon actively challenged people to find exploits, and that if you were to find exploits, you would get the items for free.
That's not a win. That's not a net win. That's not a net win. I think. So what? So if you find an exploit and you're going in to take something that's like £5 and then you tell Amazon about it, you get the £5 item for free. Nah, just keep the exploit to yourself and share it with your homies. Easy. Yeah. You get it all for free.
Yeah. The thing is about that is that someone's going to tattle once the secret gets out. It's like one of those things. Like it's one of the reasons why I don't believe in most conspiracy theories, because it'd be like the number of people involved to keep a secret. Like I barely trust 10 people to keep a secret. How the fuck can a multinational 20,000 people keep a fucking secret?
Yeah. I mean, you should hear some of the stuff we're going to be talking about you after we're done with this podcast.
Oh, I don't doubt that.
Oh, snap.
Ooh, what are we talking about? I wasn't invited to this party. I didn't get the invite.
That's a veiled threat. My guy.
Come on, guys.
No, chill.
God,
You're going to leave me out again. You're going to leave me out again. No invite. Like what?
Yeah. Huh?
Never mind.
Okay.
It was good.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Don't worry. We'll find the joke when we in your recordings.
Yeah, he'll find it.
You're giving him more work in the editing to put that out. By the way.
Thanks, guys.
Oh no.
I can already see the look.
That is wow. I think one exploit for this system though is definitely DDoSing.
Let's DDoS Amazon stores. Great. Actually, that's a fantastic idea. If you DDoS an Amazon store and then tell everyone to run in and get whatever they needed and come out, there you go.
Although, would it block out people if it was being under a DDoS attack? Because if it couldn't connect to the service to let you in, or would it even let people out?
Look, here's the thing: get two people to go post the doors, DDoS it, get everyone in, get everyone out, sorted, no problem.
Yeah. But the question is, would the gates be responsive during an event like that? Because if it was because obviously how it works is that you need the app to enter the store, and once it's tallied your objects and you've gone through, it should let you out. But is it going to respond to you? Like if the transaction is halted, would it actually continue?
Spoof someone.
I mean, you could do that too. But yeah,
it's just a prank, and you get away with it.
It's a social experiment, bro.
It's a social experiment. My God.
Look, I just robbed an Amazon shop. It was a social experiment, bro. Like I put the items back.
Or do you claim it's like, I was just testing your systems out, you should let me go?
I was just checking for exploits, man.
Yeah, I was going to report them to Amazon right away afterwards.
I was just checking the eggs, man.
Just checking.
Yeah, just imagine you try
The
to
eggs-
raid,
just
you just
checking the
try to
eggs
raid the
exploit.
Amazon supermarket. You get caught, and you're like, "Sorry, bro, just testing it out, man. What are you gonna do? Peace," and just leave.
Oh my god.
Imagine
Yeah.
DDoSing in an Amazon store though. Like, what's your life come to
Imagine,
at this
imagine
point?
DDoSing a store, a physical
single store.
store. But I mean,
Yeah.
bear in mind everything beforehand when DDoSing is like, oh yeah, internet services. But imagining DDoSing a physical entity.
I mean, hey, that's the modern day Robin Hood, right? If you want to help the homeless people,
What
DDoS
is
an Amazon
DDoSing?
store and let them go in and get food.
For those who don't know, DDoSing is the denial of service error, which is basically when a server online gets overwhelmed with requests to access the. So, like for instance, there's a website. If you sent 1 million users to that website, and the website server that's hosted on it's not that well optimized and it isn't that good, it would crash. So what people have done is created bots and artificial methods of it. Like one of them I heard was called the orbital beam cannon, and it's basically an app which, when you target the IP address of said website, it would send a million requests to access the website, and because the website would not be able to handle it, it would just simply crash.
But yeah, like I was saying, if you want to be a modern day Robin Hood, there you go.
Yeah. Orbital beam.
Get a lot of homeless people just waiting around the shop. Do your DDoS attack. Tell them, hey, go and get whatever you want so that you can have enough food, water, and shelter to survive. Off they go.
Yeah. Oh, that
But
would
surely
be
a modern day
yeah.
Robin Hood needs a bit of rebranding, so it doesn't sound like an old dinosaur from the 1600s, and it would be like our hoodie, your homeboy. And it'd just be
No,
wearing
it'd
a
be
hoodie.
I'm not. No.
Come on,
Nah.
come on, you know it's fine.
Robin of the
You're digging
Hood.
it. You're digging it, ZRift. You're digging it.
Robin
you
of the
know it.
streets.
You love it, and you know it. Come on.
Robin
don't be
the
like
hoodie.
that. Come on.
Our hoodie just gives me R. Kelly vibes, and I'm not on that.
Oh.
I'm not on that.
Oh my
I
God.
believe I can DOS.
Oh boy. I mean, the best thing
R-Truth,
about
then. What about an
Sorry?
R-Truth vibe? Do.
Ooh.
Look,
How,
The
what
rest
did you
of
say,
us-
Haz?
sure, just make
Wrestler.
What?
you say
R-Truth, the
Tesla?
guy who'd always sing on a microphone.
insert his song here.
No,
in
no.
editing.
No. No, but I just the titles, like the idea of someone saying, "Oh yeah, I'm going to use an orbital beam cannon so that the Amazon stone closes and people can go in," and it just sounds so dumb.
Sounds fantastic.
It sounds
Orbital
amazing,
beam cannon,
but
that
dumb.
stuff. Yeah. It sounds
but-
so Star Wars. Is like.
Amazingly
gonna-
done.
Imagine overhearing in a sentence, "I'm going to DDoS Amazon."
it's
You're saying the Amazonian rainforest. You're going to DDoS the Amazonian rainforest.
no, I'm going to orbital beam cannon for Amazon.
You would
Yo.
literally think, are you malfunctioning? Do I need to readjust your wiring? Uh-oh, crashing. DDoS.
But you,
No. That would be beautiful.
I
The
just
thing
feel like
is, there's a lot of people on the internet that could do all this as well.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we're just giving
yeah.
him more. We're just giving him targets.
Ammunition.
oh god, are we going to be our Twitter account's going to be deleted because these DOSers took what we said and then acted on it?
Hey,
Hey, we were thinking of doing
Wait
this
till we
beforehand.
check out
No.
the
No,
Look,
yeah.
look. Here's our justification for it. We're helping Amazon by letting them know beforehand so that they can prevent it. That's what we're doing,
Amazon
okay?
sponsor
Yeah.
it.
It was
should
just
be-
a
you
prank,
should-
bro.
You should be giving us a whole store for free because we've now told you multiple ways people can try and enter
oh
your
my
store.
god. No.
Here's a question. So it's gated, so you can't get in without having Amazon.
Yeah, you have to have the actual app in order to enter the store because it links your the app to your, I guess, instance of shopping. So once
But
you're linked to the phone, it would track you across the store, and then things you went near and picked up would be then recorded onto your device. So like as a tab. And then as soon as you try to leave the store, it would obviously add all tally the amount of items and then charge your Amazon account for it.
So here's the question: what's stopping someone from building a way just to get in and then just bolting? Like you could literally just go in, take the shit you want, and then leave. If you don't have the app, you
But
don't have
who
an
would do
account,
that?
how are they going to make you pay for it?
I think. Well, I mean,
They're going to build a wall.
I think the only thing stopping you is the way out, because from my understanding, you have to have the transaction has to go through to allow you to go out.
Yeah, but is it the same gate that allows you in?
Yeah. No, it's two different gates. So it'll be one gate to let you in, one gate, obviously like a normal,
Well,
entrance.
to be fair, I'd assume they'd still have security.
Yeah, no, that's what they've talked about. Like, obviously, one thing one thing they will be keeping is definitely security, and perhaps
We have more.
You'd have to have security. You couldn't not have it.
Yeah, no, they probably will have. They will
Exactly.
definitely have security, but whether they have more or less is, yet to be seen. If they were to be open in the UK, I imagine if it was in the UK, it would be way more. Because you know what I mean.
No, we don't. Say it.
Say it like you mean it. Heck, I'll say it with you.
Things are quite dangerous here.
What's to stop a whole bunch of mandem in East London just running up on a shop and getting what they want and getting out?
Oh, you can't open this in London.
Yeah, exactly. If you just get the whole squad together,
Hey, when
the
did
shop.
this can of worms get here?
Yeah.
Very, very well said.
Yeah.
So in essence, just run a train on Amazon shops.
Amazon trains.
Amazon trains.
Stop, please. You'll
I can't believe they named
Come
the
on,
rainforest
guys.
after Amazon. It's crazy, isn't it? Crazy world.
You would call them Amazon
Oh
trains.
my god. I mean,
Trains.
hey man.
You would show Bezos bullet trains.
Yeah.
Bezos
Was that-
bullet trains. Here we go. You wouldn't call it Amazon trains.
Yeah.
You would call it Bezos bullet trains.
Yeah. No, you call it Blue Origin trains.
Call it Amazon. I'm trying to think Amazon, like Amazon hospitals.
Yeah, I mean, for those of you
Rainforest-like.
who don't know, Blue Origin is a space company that's owned by Jeff Bezos, the guy who also owns Amazon.
Oh great!
Amazon.
Just more, isn't it? This is why
Yeah.
this is why we're talking about decentralizing or splitting up these major companies, isn't it?
Yep. So
Because
Amazon
Google
not
owns
only
Apple.
has your groceries, but it also has space.
So if you don't like Amazon, don't think about
Space.
going into space. If Elon Musk
Yeah,
wants it
fuck
to
the
build, don't think about
government.
it.
We hate capitalism. Left-wing
Yeah, well,
causes.
no.
Yeah.
Currently, how it stands is that the some of the major players currently is SpaceX. So Elon Musk does own has a contract with NASA, so they are working together currently, and he is the main guy for space. But Jeff Bezos, also wanting in, decided to create Blue Origin, which also has its own brand of rockets, which are self-landing. Well, not self-landing, but automated landing systems. And there's also China, but that's for another time.
But that's China.
The less we do about China, the better.
Yeah, China is also wanting to go to the moon and Mars as well.
The less we talk about China, the more likely we are of staying alive. So let's not.
So that's for another.
Well, I'm already on the list, so fuck it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'm on the list as well.
But yeah, but I think concluding points is that the system is going to be interesting to say the least. Advisory, no, because it's Amazon. I think everyone concurred that agreed that Amazon having it isn't the best thing. If it was probably anyone else, it'd be better.
My thing is with this is they're going to jailbreak the Amazon shop like they used to jailbreak PSPs back in the day. Like this is gonna be like
Yeah.
I give it 36 hours and people are gonna jailbreak the living daylights out of these shops.
Yeah. No,
Amazon
not.
prisons.
No,
I'm also,
Scan your credit
I'm
card
not
for
here
the
for
number
it.
one cell.
your internet is really poor today.
Yeah.
Is it?
Oh boy.
I don't think it's the internet. I think it's the fact that you're not on a phone. Isn't it? Is that what you're recording?
No, he was using his Mac, isn't he?
Yeah, I'm using my laptop. Yeah.
Oh, never mind
boy.
then. I
Yeah.
don't know your internet then.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, I usually
But the
I
internet
don't mind
seems
using
fine.
4G when I'm doing calls and
Yeah.
stuff because I find it more stable.
Yeah.
Slower, but more stable.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I hate it that the government's looking into our thing, so I use NordVPN to...
No, stop. We're not sponsored. You can't be throwing names up there.
Hey, why
Nah.
do you guys want to watch US Netflix?
No, stop. We're not sponsored. We can't be giving them free advertising if they're not paying us. Stop.
No.
Don't do that. We can't be giving them free advertisement.
Guys, do you want cheap Chinese electronics?
Alibaba's got your back.
Welcome to Space Share.
Oh my gosh.
Oh
my
right.
gosh.
Well, I think that concludes this little podcast. I think we reached
Peak chaos.
peak chaos.
Yeah.
We finished all 3 topics. Let's close off the podcast with our thoughts on how the podcast went. What do you think, guys?
It was pretty good. I mean,
There were teething issues at the start, but
yeah.
Fuck this.
Hey, everybody! Did I make it back or what?
What?
Your audio's been really like low
Bad.
quality. Yeah.
you're even worse than an Xbox 360, Mike.
You guys can't hear me right now.
Thank
Oh,
you.
now we
now.
can hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's come back. It's come back.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
Okay.
You
don't know
were
what
quiet
that
for
was.
like 5 minutes.
It was also muffled as well. It was like,
It's scary.
yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So we got the
wow.
adults and the peanuts. For the
Is
peanut
this
party.
is this a personal attack? You're like, whoa, Hamza's quiet for 5 minutes. Whoa.
No.
You're worried for my health
Yikes.
now.
Okay, has this podcast now descended into personal attacks upon each other's internet connections?
I think on that
Uncle
bombshell,
Grandpa.
it's time to.
You can't even say that because that's copyrighted.
Wait, really?
Yeah, it's Top Gear.
It's top. Yeah.
We can cut that out.
Wait, can
I
they
love
still
you.
say that in Top Gear?
Probably. I haven't watched the new
Probably.
season since Jeremy Clarkson left.
It was just I thought you could.
Oh no!
Top Gear's still
Yeah.
a thing?
yeah,
Believe it or not, yeah.
I see what,
What?
you did there. I see what you
Top
did
Gear
there.
ended in
I might
2007.
wank on it for a bit.
I love that
Oh,
joke's
that
gonna
was
come out
terrible.
in the recording.
Yeah. No, we need to get rid of the statement. I didn't realize that was copyrighted. Wow. What isn't
Even it was
copyrighted?
that was copyrighted.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure even this podcast has now been copyrighted by some third-party company.
Yeah, by
trying to-
China.
yeah.
Amazon.
It's been copyrighted by NordVPN.
If I'm wearing a red shirt, is this
Kids in
copyrighted
your
by Tom
flying
Scott?
machine.
Oh my god. Well, wow. Also on this this
On that show.
on that
My
that-
ending remarks has been redacted due to copyright.
yeah on this
On
outro.
On that fantastic display of complete chaos, we thank each and every one of you for listening in.
Thank you for staying this long.
Yeah, thank you for staying. If you're actually still here by
Thank
the
you to the one person who listened to this.
if you're still here by the end of the video, then yeah, thank
Wow.
you for being here. But
We're gonna
we,
have like one really dedicated fan.
Hero, we
Yeah.
love
one
you.
person who agrees with
Remember
one
to
opinion
hit that
on the
bell
show.
icon, like and subscribe and comment.
Why do you sound like
Find
the
our
worst kind of
Instagram,
YouTuber to
our
do this?
Instagram, our Facebook. Find the non-existent social media
We don't
accounts.
have a
We know you can do
Facebook.
it, fans. We know
We
you
don't
can
have a
do
social
it.
media account.
Oh my god.
Exactly.
Wow.
They're gonna find a non-existent social media account. They'll do it. If anyone can
Yeah.
do it, they
And
can.
And if this gets 0 likes, I'll do Drunk Rocket League.
Yeah. Woohoo.
So guaranteed.
He's
Wow.
doing it by proxy already.
Well, I just need to.
Drinking
I'll
this whole
I'll
time.
buy a mask for confidentiality, and then I'll go for it. Actually,
You'll
or just not fucking stream my face. That's probably a better idea.
Yeah, that's probably better. That's probably easier.
Yeah.
Become a V chatter.
Oh,
build-
VTube.
A vlog.
Man said
YouTuber.
V chatter. Man said V chatter. Chat V.
The new area of
To be fair, they are chatting.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't really do much else.
They're chatting our favorite shit 24/7, 365.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
Don't worry.
Closing-
None
alright.
of us watch VTube.
So,
Yeah, at
Definitely.
least I hope
No.
not.
No way.
No,
There's no way.
no.
There's no way.
No.
no,
Delete-
that rabbit
delete
hole is
history.
way too deep.
no, I wouldn't.
ZRift, do you watch YouTube?
No, that
Okay.
rabbit hole is way too deep. I'm not getting involved in that.
Okay.
Anyway,
Like the
closing
deep end of
statements.
the ocean.
Farouk, closing statement.
Don't watch VTubers.
That was good
Okay.
advice.
That is. We take that. We take that. Hazzamaxman, closing statement.
This podcast instead of VTubers. You're welcome.
Jason, closing statement.
Have a good evening, everyone. Or day, or whatever.
Nero,
This is sponsored by NordVPN.
I will kill you in your sleep. I will kill you in your freaking sleep.
So
And
long and
to-
farewell.
And to all of you who listened in, we thank you for your time. We hope that you enjoyed it. If, again, there is something that you'd like us to talk about maybe in a future podcast, put it down below in the comments. If you did if you did enjoy the show, then a subscription would be greatly appreciated. But we hope to see you in our next podcast in the future. But from myself and from the team, it is over and out. And until the next time.
See you later.
Shit, that's copyrighted.
Boy.
I will kill you all.
Smell you later, ashy boys and girls.
Oh my god.
End on that.
End on that.
I don't even know anymore.